and welcome back to my channel. I have the the amazing opportunity to share with you the Faber-Castell Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils. And I'm kind of like, eek! It's like Christmas, Christmas twice over. These are just the absolute dream watercolor pencils. You can't imagine something that, look at that. Look at that. Okay, how gorgeous are these? So this is the set of 120 colors. Comes in this beautiful tin. Oh, it's so pretty. I can just admire it. Okay, one more. Oh, look at this. Look at the range of colors. And you know what's really cool about the Faber-Castell color system is that they're the way their colors are, they're like consistent across the board. So with all their products, like we take a blue, the 110. So this is the Pitt Artist brush pen in blue 110 will be the same as the Pitt Artist S nib in 110. It'll be same as the Albrecht Durer watercolor marker in 110. There should be 110 in here as well, I'm sure. There we go. There's the 110. So we'll test it out, but their color system is so incredible because it makes it so easy to work with, especially if you start using more than one media. So if you're working with mixed media, even their sets of pastels, their watercolor pans, all their colors are just like so. They're probably, I think, out of all the different companies, the best when it comes to their color system. And also the color that you see on the lead is so true to the color that comes out on the paper. So often what happens, and this is something I noticed especially with my Inktense pencils, is that the color on the barrel and the color in the lead and the color on the paper are all three totally different colors. So with the Inktense, you have to make sure you have a color swatch, that you make yourself one. Whereas with these, even if you don't have, you don't need one, although it is nice to make. In the booklet that they give you, I think it does have, there we go. So it does have all the colors swatched for you. And it also has the light fastness rating. So you'll see on the barrel of the colors, let's look at another one here, that it's got 3 stars. So the majority of the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils are marked with a 3-star, which refers to light fastness. So if you're not sure what that is, light fastness means the color will not fade. It will last, I think it's something, I stand to be corrected, 100 or 150 years without fading. So if you are a professional artist, that is something that would be important to you. For me, I'm a colorist, and I have coloring books from 10 years ago. And it's sad to see the pages that I didn't use Lightfast products on, how they have faded and discolored over the years, even though the books are closed and on a shelf. Um, Not a biggie though, but if you're like me and you're a hoarder and you want to keep them and you look back at them, you might want to, if you want your colors to stay true. But let's check them out. So let's have a look. I grabbed the blue, so let's check that. One of the things that I also love about Faber-Castell is their sustainability. So all um, the lacquer on the outside of the pencil and the wood they used, everything is eco-friendly. Now, if I look at this pencil, I can see that the core inside is really nice and thick and solid, and that matters, especially with this price point. You want to get the most out of your product. So let's check it out. So let's see how it colors first. Oh, that is so creamy. If I adjust my pressure, I can get different values out of the same pencil. So in terms of a coloring pencil, it has a really smooth, creamy laydown. I'm obviously using a textured watercolor paper here, but I really do like that. And I think this will lend itself well to detailed work, especially if you sharpen the point. You could probably do a lot of really fine, detailed work with this, which is amazing. So let's add some water and see what happens. I'm using the barrel brush, so it just has water in the barrel. You sort of just give it one little squeeze, get that water flowing. It's got like a control valve, so you'll see that even though I've activated, the water isn't pouring out of it. So it really does give you a controlled flow. Oh, wow. Okay, so it is true. I had heard that the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils move beautifully on paper, and that is true. Look at that. You can't even see the scribble marks from where I scribbled. And that is something that definitely sets it apart from other watercolor pencils. So with other watercolor pencils, very often you will still see the lines that you've made with the pencil even after you've activated with water. Whereas with these, those lines are completely gone. I can lift some color so that we can have different gradients. Look how much I'm still playing with the paint from just that little bit of color that I applied to the paper there. You can, obviously, if you want to keep the effect of your line, you just won't blend it all away. So there you can see you can still keep the effect of your line. You can also, with these pencils, if you are out and about, you could make yourself your own little travel um, paint swatches. So you could have your color palette on a card and keep that with your sketchbook. And when you're out and about, you don't have to carry the pencils around. You don't have to carry pans of watercolor around. You would just pick up your color from that and paint. So that is very, very nifty. Let's see how they blend. Beautifully. What a beautiful blend. No blotchiness, nothing. So smooth. So I love this. These are gorgeous. Now I use watercolor pencils a lot. So as I said, I'm a colorist. Um, this book, this is The Fragile World by Kirby Rozanz, and I use my watercolor pencils a lot in this book in particular. So just to give you like a quick look, sort of how I've used watercolor pencils here. But one of my favorite techniques is to layer my watercolor pencil. So this particular coloring page, this is the snow leopard, and I did this entire thing using a combination of watercolor pencils and fine liners, and this little mister here, which is one of my absolute favorites. So it's the Pit Artist white pen, and it's the thick nib, but it's such an incredibly nice pen for blending with. I love using that. So you can see I use my watercolor pencils so much, and all of this was actually done with the Faber-Castell Gold Fabers. So I am just delighted and thrilled. I think I have pushed the Gold Faber watercolors pencils to their limit, so I am just thrilled to be able to start experimenting. Here's another one where I sort of layer. So with the penguins, I will put the base layer down on the fur with my watercolor pencils, putting in the different gradients of color, and then I will go in with a finer point, still using my watercolor pencil to get that fur effect. And then one more time, once I've put in the lines for the fur, I'd go in with this brush, and like you saw me do here, I would just lift those lines, and that's how I get that fur, that that furry type of texture. I did use the same technique on my monkeys, on my lemurs, sorry, and on the monkeys. I did monkeys as well, I'll show you. So I really do, I love my watercolor pencil. So use the same technique on these little chimpanzees. So I am so excited to just play with these things. But just coming back to the colors, so I wanted to show you how the colors work, where I was talking about how consistent they are. So this is the brush pen. This is the Albrecht Durer. So the Albrecht Durer watercolor marker is a dual tip, and it's super juicy. There's the S-nib. So the Pitt Artist pens are archival. They are archival, meaning it's a India ink. So they are light fast, permanent. So there we go. So we can see the colors. And this one was the watercolor marker. And then we had the Pitt Artist pen and the S-nib. And like I said, on your watercolor pans, on your chalk pastels, your oil pastels, all of your range really in Faber-Castell, your colors are all aligned. So I really love that, because if you're like me and you're layering stuff, so I like to work in layers and I like to do a lot of mixed media work, and I want to switch from one thing to another. So in other words, I might want to sketch, let's do a little, actually, let's get a new page and a different color. Let's use a yellow. Why not? No, not this yellow. Hold on. Cardamom yellow. Okay. So we're going to do just a little daisy there. So I can do outline with pen. I can then go in. So that is, let's just find it. It's 107. There we go. So with the watercolor pencil, you obviously want to leave space for where your highlights are going to be. And you're going to add color where you want your darker values. And we can go in with some, so let's just start adding a little bit to this. So we're going to layer that a bit. And let's just pop a green in there as well. Then we can go darker still. We'll grab the white pencil. So the white pencil is super creamy. I can feel while I'm using it how soft and creamy, which tells me it's going to be great for blending as well, which matters for me as a colorist. Those are some of the things that I tend to look out for. Okay, so let's go in and see. So depending how you work it, you can either work it so that all your squiggle lines are gone, or you can keep it. So it really does manipulate and move so beautifully on your paper. You can choose, you have a lot of choices with these, and I really like that. So you can pull color from here and drag it across there. I want to blend that gray in just to tone down my yellow a little. Now you can notice that my hand becomes my, should use a tissue, but anyway. So let's spread that white out that we had in there, and it spreads beautifully, and it's so creamy. Another thing you can do is you can pick up color from the tip of a pencil. Now, you want to be very careful when you do this with any watercolor pencils that you don't want to get the wood wet, and you don't want to get this part super wet, because if you get it really wet, the water is actually going to soak into that pencil. It's going to soak into the wood and it's going to damage. So you want to be very, want to use a very light hand when picking up color directly from your pencil. So you can do it, but I wouldn't suggest dipping the whole thing in water, for example. But just touching it to pick up a little color, not a problem. Just can almost lift it entirely. I want to move some of that color over there. Now, because it's watercolor pencil, even if it dries, if you wet it again, you are going to activate that watercolor pigment. So do keep that in the back of your mind. So if you are doing the whole picture in watercolor pencil, you may want to, and you want to sort of protect the longevity of it, you may want to look at some sort of lacquer or setting spray afterwards. Let's go in with a slightly darker. Just going to blend that out. Oh, I can't remember which green I used. That's okay, I'll just grab any green. There's still a little bit of white on this pencil, on this brush. Don't be like me and like not wipe your brushes. You should clean them. So lastly, what we can also do is take a piece of plastic or another piece of paper. Where's the other piece of paper I have? So let's do this. We're going to lay down some color. Pick it up there. You can do the same with your watercolor markers. And when this is completely dry, you can actually go in with your Pit Artist, your black pen, and add a little bit of, I don't think it's totally dry, I probably should wait, but anyway. So if you want to, you can go in and start adding more detail. So there's a little green dot there that I don't want. So while it's still wet, I can just take a little bit of water and lift it. So there we have it, a review of the Albrecht Durer watercolor pencils. I absolutely love them, and I'm super excited to be using them. So what I'll do is the next page I do in one of my books, I will do with these, and I'll share it here with you guys so you can see what how they perform in a coloring book. Bye.